Here's how this works. Water, salt, and pepper, those are freebies. Your pantry, it better have flour, oil, vinegar, mustard, and garlic. Beyond that, you'll only need 5 more ingredients and 25 minutes to put an entree or entire meal on the table. So, shop, set the clock, and let's dish out. Our 5 ingredients this week will be a couple of chicken breasts, some fresh mozzarella cheese, some good balsamic vinegar, nice fresh basil, and some fresh vine-ripened tomatoes. This would make enough for 2 hungry folks or 4 thoughtful portions. I'm feeling pretty hungry today, so let's get started. We're going to mince up a couple cloves of garlic. That comes from our pantry, don't you know? Go ahead once that is nice and finely minced and get it set aside on your board. And now we're going to cut up our tomatoes. Hold the tip of your knife and go ahead and take the core out of one of your tomatoes. No need to peel it as long as that skin is very nice and thin as this is. And we're going to go ahead and dice up one of our tomatoes into a fairly fine dice. We're also going to take one tomato and cut it into slices. As I always say, when you're using very few ingredients, using them in different ways and different preparations helps make the dish nice and vibrant. Tear off a few leaves of your basil and also chiffonade a few as well, or just cut them into thin ribbons. Once that's done, set all this aside. We're going to go ahead and start cooking our chicken. So in a skillet over medium-high heat, add a couple tablespoons of olive oil, again from our pantry. Get that nice and hot, and lay your chicken in away from you, being careful not to splatter yourself with hot grease. Season that up with pepper and salt, and let it cook for 4 to 5 minutes, or until the chicken is nice and golden brown on its first side. At that point, you want to go ahead and give it a flip. Season that other side as well. Add in your garlic. We're also going to add in that 1 diced tomato at this point. Give that just a few minutes to cook on that second side, start to soften that garlic and the tomatoes. We're going to go ahead and add in a few pieces of torn basil. Make sure all the vegetation is in the bottom of the pan so that it can cook, and toss it in a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes. At this point, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of our balsamic vinegar to a pan over medium heat, and cook that as long as the chicken is in the oven, allowing it to simmer and reduce by about half. Once it's reduced by half, just set it aside. Pull your chicken out of the oven. It should be almost cooked through at this point, and we're going to add a couple slices of our fresh mozzarella cheese and put it back in the oven for about 5 minutes to melt the cheese and finish cooking. Once it is cooked through to 165 degrees and that cheese is beautifully melted, we've just about got ourselves a meal here. So, I'm going to plate this up next to some rice pilaf, but of course any side is fine. Spoon down some of that tomato sauce with the basil. Add on half or 1 whole chicken breast. Take a couple of your basil leaves, go ahead and fan those out so they're flat. Set them on top of the hot mozzarella cheese. It's going to perfume beautifully. Add a couple slices of fresh tomato. Of course, fresh tomatoes need seasoning, so pepper and salt goes down, and spoon over our balsamic glaze. And finally, to ever gild the lily, we will sprinkle over some of our chiffonade basil. In 25 minutes, you've got a complete meal that is pretty fancy looking, I must say, and has a very complex and wonderful flavor profile. And then, of course, the best part is this absurdly moist and juicy chicken that you get from cooking it properly in a skillet and finishing it in the oven. Wonderful fresh tomato flavor goes really well with that soft cooked tomato. The balsamic cuts through the richness of the chicken and cheese. It's a really amazing bite of food that I hope you will give a try very, very soon. I not only tried it, I stood here and cleaned my plate, and I'm sure you will do the same. So, have a great week. Let me know what you think, and as always, go make something delicious.